Hello, everybody. I come to you today as someone who has spent the past 10 plus years in American manufacturing, living and breathing it every day. And in 2011, I discovered something that was a growing and troubling trend. At the time, I was CEO of a company called J.W. Hulme in St. Paul, Minnesota, a 100-plus-year-old leather manufacturing company. We were experiencing tremendous growth. There was a resurgence of American consumers searching out American-made brands. We were experiencing tremendous growth. But we were having a hard time keeping up with demand. What I want to share with you today is what I discovered the whys were. Let's start with American manufacturing at large. We all know that manufacturing went overseas decades ago. Many people have said that these jobs have gone away and they're never coming back. Let's look at an industry as a stark example, one that I happen to know well, the apparel and textile industry. Between the year 1960 and 2012, we went from having 1.2 million American workers in that industry to 122,000. That's an 83% drop. And by the way, this was not unique to this industry. This was mirrored amongst many industries. Now, the good news is that we've heard that domestic manufacturing is returning, onshoring is happening. Surprising a lot of economists, manufacturing is actually helping to lead us out of this Great Recession. In fact, the Boston Consulting Group actually projects that with the changing tide of economic landscape in China and other places we are now manufacturing, there's an opportunity to bring back 2.5 to 5 million manufacturing jobs to the United States by capturing that opportunity because we can now be more competitive. But there's a larger question. That's just opportunity. That's a could have 2.5 million jobs. Can we meet that potential, though? Can we meet that demand? Consider this. Another industry I know well is the handbag industry. In 2011, if we had used 100% of our US manufacturing capacity, we would only have been able to fulfill 19% of our $2.7 billion US demand. That means 81% was imported. In the case of leather goods, it's projected to worsen. That by 2018, 91% is going to be imported. Those are staggering numbers at a time that supposedly domestic manufacturing is returning. Essentially, we have lost our capacity to meet demand. Right at a time where Americans are opening their wallets, they're seeking out American-made products, and we're losing the opportunity. We can't keep up. So what's happening? Why is not domestic manufacturing growing faster at a larger scale? Why aren't those economic needles just, bending like this? They're not. Why? It's not just higher labor costs. It's not just that there are trade restrictions that sometimes impinge our ability to do this. It's not just that we don't want those jobs or that we've gotten lazy. A lot of things we have at our fingertips to address some of these things. We have technology, we have engineering, we have policy changes, marketing, investment. But what we keep hearing is that it's a skill gap. In fact, if you heard the State of the Union speech this week and subsequent interviews with Obama, he has spent a lot of energy talking about this skill gap this week. There's plenty of evidence to say that what he's saying is true. Of manufacturers interviewed in the US, 82% said that they had openings for skilled positions that they could not fill. 82%. Listen to these percentages. They're not 5, 15, 20, 30, even 50. 80%. So I began to experience what was really happening while at J.W. Hulme. 2011, we were growing at over 50% a year and had been for several years. We were having a terrible, terrible time keeping up with demand. This was the first wake-up call, the capacity wake-up call. Why couldn't we meet it? Because the people weren't there. We couldn't find skilled tradespeople, people that had been trained to do this job well. We couldn't find them. In fact, if any of you have ever had the mission to make something in the US, if any of you have tried, or if you know somebody who's tried, ask them how many times they heard no before, if ever, they heard yes, we can make this in the US. At J.W. Hulme, we couldn't even consider contract manufacturing. We couldn't even keep up with our own demand. Then came the second wake-up call, and this one was, I really felt shame on this count. I asked myself, well, what had I been doing at J.W. Hulme? What were we doing to prevent this skill gap? And I was ashamed at what I knew the answer was. It was very little. We weren't promoting the trade. We weren't teaching the trade. We weren't going out there and trying to attract new talent. And the only consolation was that I found out we weren't alone. In talking with other businesses, we had all stopped being forward-looking guardians of our trades. All of us. We did a survey, just in Minnesota, and we surveyed companies that used cut-and-sew manufacturing, industrial sewing. And we asked them, how many jobs do you think you're going to have open in the next 12 months? And they added up to be 90. And not only were there 90, but they were 90 positions that industry had no confidence they were going to be able to fill with skilled labor. None. This was a big problem. This isn't something that J.W. Hulme was going to solve alone. This was a much bigger issue. So we helped to create the Makers Coalition, a trifecta collaboration between industry, education, and nonprofit social services. We developed an industrial sewing curriculum, a certificate program that served industry needs, helped us serve a growing industry, and also helped to provide a skilled career for those under or unemployed. By March of this year, we will have graduated 80 students. Of those who have already graduated, we've placed 90% of them. 90%. Thank you. Now here's the third wake-up call. Here we had been being proactive. We were going to solve this, and we did it as a group. It felt great. We found a problem, we were solving it, and we were doing it together. We were doing good work. And then the third wake-up call happened, and this one I just felt like banging my head on a brick wall. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I started to get these calls. Jen, between you and I, let's keep this between you and I. You know, we can only pay those people about $9.50 an hour, maybe 10. Keep in mind, at the time, the average was $11 an hour. That's $23,000 a year. This was skilled labor the industry was dying for, in dire need for. Are you kidding me? I was disgusted. There was the real reason. Value gap. It wasn't a skill gap. It was a value gap. Refusing to settle for these lowball wages, we said to the people in the Makers Coalition, we said, look, if you want to attract these new graduates, you better give them something attractive. Give them good wages, give them benefits, give them a decent environment to work in. As a result, those graduates were placed at 20% above that national average. Why? Because we started to treat that skill with dignity, with respect. We treated it like it was important. That's why. But why are we having this argument? I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And as I thought more, I thought, you know, I think we've allowed the Wall Street formula of bigger, faster, better, lower cost sort of trump respect for trades. As Bruce Upton put it, he said, a common tenet of scale businesses is to cut costs to the extent that the customers will accept lower quality products, poorer service, and less convenience. Think about that. What can we kind of slip by you and have you still pay for it? Think about that. So here's the opportunity. American-made products can take a totally different position, go for a totally different purpose. What if we decided we want to provide the highest quality for what a customer is willing to pay, not the lowest? But what do we need? We need our skilled craftspeople, our tradespeople, to be at the core of that. They can't be just an expense. They are not just a cost. They are a tremendous asset. This kind of purpose can lead to profit, but we can't stop there. We have to challenge other assumptions. I have 5 to share with you. The first one, technology has replaced skilled labor. No. We've just devalued the output of skilled labor. If we, in fact, could cover all of our needs with technology could do everything, then why is everybody saying we have a skill gap? Second assumption, lower costs, higher profits. Okay, math is math. We all get that. But there's other ways to achieve profits. American-made products demand higher prices. People place a higher value on those products. Rather than going to labor as your first place to grow profits, make it your last place. How about that thought? Look at this survey. 85% of Americans that were surveyed and 82% of Chinese people surveyed said that they placed higher value on products that had American-made label. 60% of them said they'd pay 10% more for these products. 25% said they'd pay 20% more. A college degree is your best chance for success. I'm in a college, I recognize this, I'm going to be careful here. I have a college degree, but it's not the only way. It's not the only way. And we do need to do the math. We need to do a personal balance sheet. Take this for example. A median tool and die maker stands to have $1 million more in net worth by the time that person is 49 years old than your standard holder of a bachelor's degree in English. Cause for pause? As journalist Matthew Crawford said from the New York Times, he addressed it this way: a good job requires a field of action where you can put your best capabilities to work and see an effect in the world. Academic credentials do not guarantee this. A Princeton economist said this, and I just love it. It's very simply put. You can't hammer a nail over the internet, nor can Indians fix your car, because they're in India. So, the next assumption. I have to be careful here because I could talk a long time on this one. There's no dignity in being a trade worker. Ugh. Who assigns dignity to what? We do. We're looking at ourselves. We do. And believe me, when you assign dignity to people that are doing the work, it will show up on the bottom line. I guarantee it. Now, what do we do about this? I'm going to revert back to our journalist one more time. You know, why is it that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, why is it that if someone chooses to become an auto mechanic, that they are somehow viewed as eccentric, if not sort of self-destructive? He used the word self-destructive. Where's the dignity in that? And we have to be very careful about this. It can be said in very quiet but very strong ways. It happened this week at the State of the Union. Obama, in the process of giving someone a compliment, he was introducing the female GM, or the female CEO of GM, and he introduced her as, you know, the CEO of GM, the daughter of an auto mechanic. You know what that infers? Wow, how could a woman who was raised by an auto worker become a CEO? I mean, she wasn't raised by Charles Manson, for God's sakes. You know? I mean, we have to be really careful. We have to be really mindful of this. How many of you were raised by people that were hard workers, that were in the trade somehow or another? I bet a good handful of you. We need to return to that. So the last assumption that we have to challenge is that manufacturing has left the US forever. That's just not wrong. That's wrong. There's plenty of things we can and should be making here. So what's the next step? Well, we have to take guardianship of our trades. I actually had a really long list of things I wanted us to do here because it takes a lot to be a guardian of something. But I want to focus on just a few things. We need to develop, deliver, and promote career ladders for the trades. And we don't stop there. We have to continue. Continuing certification program, mastery programs. We should pay for it. We should treat these people with great dignity and give them a vision of where they can go. It's so important. Essentially, teach it or lose it. Okay? Secondly, give these people great environments to work in. No more factory in the basements with no windows. You know? Put them at the center stage. Show people who's doing the work. Show consumers, because you know what? This is what they feel good about paying for. Okay? So how do trades look different then? Well, we have to challenge our math, our margins, and what we invest in. So in June, I moved to Detroit to join Shinola. And when our founder told a group of people, a couple years back, he said, I want to make watches to scale in the US. It hadn't been done in 40 years. People said he was crazy. In fact, one person said, you don't know shit from Shinola. Well, at least we got our name from that. But we didn't give up, so we kept going. So flash forward to 2013. People like this assembled 50,000 watches since April in Detroit. 50,000. Here's what we decided to invest in. Instead of paying millions of dollars to a celebrity to wear our watches, ride our bikes, we partnered with the best Swiss watchmakers in the world to train these people. They did train them, and they still train them. The gal on the left, or our right, she's one of our highest performers. She's going to Switzerland in March for 2 weeks to continue her credentialing to become a watchmaking master. She's never even been out of the country. These are people really proud for what they are learning. The other thing we invested in was a different factory. That's our factory. Beautiful, right? It's pristine. You know what else? Every worker has natural lighting. Every worker has a view. Now, we put our people, their skill, and our quality products center stage. We show our customers this. They want to see this. They want to know what they're paying for, and you know what? They will. So, to wrap this all up, the gap between American-made is essentially the value we place on people, or actually the value we are not placing on people. Let's stop calling these people laborers. Do we call a hairstylist like a hair laborer? Or like a chef, a food laborer, or a teacher, an education laborer? Let's make these are makers. These are not laborers. It's a heavy word. It's a cost. They're makers. That's what these people are. So this is all about our path to the quality of our path actually to the bottom line. The quality of that path increases the value of our bottom line. We need to be passionate about what we do and even more passionate about the people who do it. Remember that there is no skill gap. It's a value gap. Closing this gap is a sustainable model because the power of what it creates is much more powerful than product. You're not just creating jobs, you're impacting culture and you're creating community. So I urge all of you to do whatever you can to close the value gap. Put value where it counts. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.